I'm going to walk you through how to install an AEM boost controller with push to connect fittings, step by step. 17.8 pounds of boost. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, I'm Matt. Let's install our AEM True Boost Gauge controller thing. And I'll walk you through the process. It's pretty simple. So what came in the kit is our gauge, which is also our controller. And then we have the AEM Mac valve as well. So you can see there it says Mac, just rebranded with AEM sticker. So this came in the kit along with our wiring harness, some rubber hose, and some kind of barb style fittings. I'm not going to use these because I want to use air hose push to connect fittings, so I picked up some of these fittings. However, if you were to do this with what's supplied, they also supply some butt connectors so you can hook up all of your wiring. I am going to solder everything together, so I have just a real cheap AutoZone soldering kit here. And then we have to have a way to tap into our car's power, so when we turn the key on, the boost gauge turns on and we can control our solenoid. I have some 1/4-inch air hose, some heat shrink, a wire stripper, some zip ties to secure this little guy. You know, it's got these holes here, but I mean, really, a couple zip ties will hold it in place. It's just a street car. If we wanted to do something a little fancier, we could make a bracket, but this thing is pretty light and that'll hold just fine. That's about all the tools we're really going to need. I'll leave a link down in the description to the AEM True Boost controller. Certainly you can find it other places, but if you do decide to purchase an AEM Boost controller, it will help support the channel so we can continue making videos like this. On my setup, I do have an external wastegate, in which it might be hard to see because it's kind of tucked away, but we have our push to connect fittings on it already, and it's basically just running off of wastegate spring, which is 14 psi. And we have the bottom of the wastegate plumb straight to the turbo, in which I've already put a push to connect fitting on our turbo. And I think what I'm going to do is install it over on this side, possibly just hang it from this old airbox mounting bracket. So that way it's on the cooler side of things and it will be out of the way of the belt. It should work a-okay. While we have this off of the car, we'll go ahead and we'll install our little muffler that came with the kit, and we're going to thread it into port number 3, and we'll just snug it up. And we'll take a couple 90s, we'll toss those in as well and snug them down, and then we'll mount this into the car. Why does this look like some sort of character with cannon arms? Let's toss this thing into place. I changed my mind on the location, so I have it down here. It'll be kind of out of the way, and it'll make our routing for the tubing shorter rather than it being back there. So it's saying port number 1, which is over here, because this thing is upside down. We need to tee that off from turbo pressure and to the bottom of the wastegate. So we'll take our T, in which the turbo is going to feed here. We'll set this down here in this area to port number 1, and we'll send the other side to the bottom of the wastegate. Okay, we have that teed off. We're getting our feed from the turbo. It's kind of nicely tucked away. I'll use some zip ties to secure it, but it's going to the bottom of the wastegate. Now we just need to connect port number 2 to the top of the wastegate. There we go. We have everything hooked up, routed nicely out of the way, just kind of running things right here. We got our 2 hoses, we got our T, and everything is looking great. That was the easy part. Now we need to wire this thing up, and we need to give it a manifold source, which we're going to do here. We already have a push to connect on the manifold. We just need to feed the wiring for the gauge itself into the car. We got the negative side of the battery disconnected because we will be working around the airbag because of our pillar gauge pod set up. So let's get some light in here. We'll run things through the firewall, and I'll show you how I'm going to go about doing that. Okay, we just need to pull some of this weather stripping back so we can expose our pillar here. And then we'll just pull this right on back. And there's this little clip here that's holding things on. Press that clip in. We'll just slide that out. It's just kind of like a safety retaining cord kind of thing. There we go. Now we can take our old gauge out, which is this gauge here, but I'm also going to use these wires here to kind of help me, and the tubing, to help pull the wiring through the firewall. So let's just get this gauge out. We got our old gauge out using my previous hose here. And I've got some electrical tape wrapped around it. I have the harness end of the AEM gauge that's going to go to the boost controller. And then we have some push to connect hose that I'm pulling through as well. So let's jump to the other side. Let's see if we can't give this thing a little bit of a head start. And things are coming through right down here. I'll get a close-up of how it's actually coming through. It's where a clutch boot is at on a manual car. There we go. Nice and easy. Don't know if I mentioned it, but I did put just some lube, some Vaseline, just to kind of help things slide through. So we'll disconnect this. No longer need that. Now we just need to unravel this thing. We'll keep pulling it through and we'll connect everything up. We have our push to connect hose installed. We have our wire, which I plan to secure to the brake line, which is kind of out of the way. Keep things clean. For now, I just have the wiring sitting over here by the boost controller. Now I just have this hook kind of going through. It basically goes down through the dash underneath it. Pretty easy. So we'll need that to power the gauge. There are some alternative wires that we don't really need. The orange we may use. It is for scramble boost. So in other words, you could be running a setting where it's 15 pounds and press this and it'll boost it to whatever boost you want. Aside from that, we have a red and black power cable. The rest I'm just going to cap off because it's used for CAN bus type stuff for an AEM system. So I'm just going to attach this around that hook. I'll pull it through and then we'll wire things up. Okay, now I'm going to mount this gauge, just a couple little screws here. We'll plug in our harness, and then for our boost reference here, what I'm going to do is heat this up with the lighter. It is just slightly smaller than this fitting right here. By heating it up, what it will do is make it nice and malleable. And it's essentially how it's done on this opposite end. So we'll heat it up and we'll connect these two, but first we need to toss this in. There we go. It was nice and easy. You can see it kind of goes together quite well. I know we got the light over there from the shop that's kind of blocking the view and then the damn camera at the same time. Here, let's try this. There we go. So I'm just going to take some zip ties, kind of push this stuff back, get it out of the way. We'll put our pillar back in, and then we need to go underneath here and wire things up. So I pulled one of the fuses to hook things up. It is a key on, key off kind of fuse. It originally has a 20 amp in its place, but we are going to be running a couple gauges, tapping into the same spot where I have my wideband. So we tossed in a 15 amp fuse, giving us a total of 35 amps. So let's go ahead and toss this on, and then we'll connect everything up. Let's solder this thing together. Polarity doesn't matter with this. So we're just gonna push them together, twist them, toss a little solder on them. We got her all nice and neatly tucked away, secured to the brake line, all the way around. Our wiring's looking pretty hidden, out of the way. We just need to put our intake back on. And we have our wiring all situated. We have it all connected here, soldered it together. However, my shrink tubing did shrink a little bit for these couple of wires to plug into it, so I did have to use a little bit of electrical tape. Not a big deal. And right here is where our ground is at. Hopefully y'all can see that because I cannot see what the camera is doing right at this moment, but it's right there. But that is where everything goes in. Does look like I forgot to hit up a zip tie, but I'll trim that. Let's do that now. The negative side of the battery is hooked back up. We've got our intake back on, which kind of hides the boost controller quite nicely. Where's that? I don't know. Not that there's really anything to hide about this build, but let's key it on and see what it does. All right. Well, she's reading vacuum. Everything's looking pretty darn good. Now we'll just kind of play around with the settings and then we'll take her for a spin. Boost gauge is working quite nicely. We're reading some vacuum, getting her warmed up, and we'll go for a little bit of a rip. All right, boys and girls, we've got our boost settings all dialed in. Let's put her on setting A. Make sure that we're still running on wastegate. And we'll see what she does. Alright, we're in second gear, no one's in front of us. Let's go ahead and let her rip real quick. Almost perfect. We got up to 15.6 pounds. We'll go back, we'll take a look. The high value, yep, 15.6. So that's really good. Now, I'm just gonna hold the A button down. All right, we're in setting B, which is gonna be a little bit higher of a boost setting. So we'll go back around to our open road course on Mexico. You're not getting sick back there, are you, Apollo? Sorry, buddy. Let's see what she gets up to. I'm trying to target just 17 pounds boost, see how accurate we can get with this. Let's go. She got it! Woo! Oh, man. Just even a couple pounds more of boost made a huge difference. Can't wait to see what it'll do. 20 pounds, 21, 25, whatever the case may be. This is awesome. And it's reading vacuum really well. I think the peak that we have seen is probably about 18 as far as vacuum goes. Alright, I'm going to stop this log. We'll use this and we'll go back and we'll fine tune some of these areas that we have yet to hit because this is the first time we've exceeded 15 pounds of boost. And before I turn the car off, I'll show you guys that we did indeed hit 17 pounds. And I let off a little early, so it might have went to 18 had we let it rev out a little longer. All right, we're gonna do a recall by hitting B. There we go, 17.8 pounds of boost. So this thing has been really easy to set up. I'm just gonna long hold for 3 seconds on both of these. And we're gonna do the same thing again for 3 seconds. And we've got our units, which is in PSI, and you can kind of toggle up and down between bar and pascals. We're gonna keep it on PSI. I'm gonna hit it again. We got our scramble boost. We'll play with that down the road. And which this number is the percentage. I'll talk about that here in a second. Scramble boost time. Alarm 17.5. I think I might raise that up. We'll just leave it there. 18. until we get to dyno. There's really no point in me just pushing it too hard. So this is the open pressure, which I have it set to 11. They do say in the manual to scale it down a few pounds so that way you can hit your target wastegate boost, which in our case is 14. And we're hitting 15, so we still might be able to just turn this down a little bit. We'll turn it down to 10, see if that keeps us at about 14. We'll double press again. And then full, essentially what that is the full sweep of your boost range. I really don't plan on exceeding 30 pounds of boost because we only do have a 3-bar map sensor. And then here's our A setting. We have an A and a B setting. Right now I have it at the lowest, which is 10%. So we're just gonna leave it there. That'll be fun for driving around on the street in Mexico. We'll hit it again, and we're doing 15% duty cycle just to reach 17 pounds of boost. And we'll play with that. We'll slowly, gradually, 2-3%, just kind of increase that until, you know, until we can get on a dyno and just really kind of dial this thing in. Right now, we're just kind of street tuning it. Now I press it again, it goes back into its traditional mode. Well, that was easy to install, and we have a lot of flexibility with this AEM boost controller versus a cheap, just kind of manual turn gauge kind of deal. We're just kind of really guessing. This is, in my opinion, a much better way to do it, and the gauge looks damn cool too. So be sure to stay tuned if you're new. Subscribe. We're going to push this engine well into the 20s as far as PSI goes, and we're gonna have some fun with it. Be sure to like. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Until next time, peace out. With your peace out.